Hello, and thank you for joining us for this Iowa Fraud Fighters virtual forum. My name is Bob Waters. I'll be your moderator and host today. Today we're talking about how to avoid Medicare fraud and financial exploitation. Joining us today is Iowa Insurance Commissioner Doug Ommen and Iowa Senior Medicare Patrol Program Manager Jeanne Mentel. Be sure to submit your questions in the comments section, or you can email them to us throughout this webinar at info@iowafraudfighters.gov. We'll get to as many questions as time allows in the time we have today.
It was 2 postcards that came in the mail, and one of them had to do with the investment, and the other one was information about Social Security. And I laid them aside, intending to order the one about Social Security. And when I signed them, I signed the wrong one and shredded the one that I should have kept, and that brought somebody to my door at a later time. Well, I figured out what had happened, and I finally reluctantly did let him in. He said he would only take 15 minutes, and it lasted much longer than that, of course. They offered a really high interest rate, and about that time we sold some property, and they knew about that. And I think that's what kept them coming back and keeping in touch with me, because they knew that I was going to have some income and would have something to invest. I handed over a check for my half of the sale of farm property that was over $1 million. And I handed over, he talked me out of the annuity that I had been adding to from my paycheck from teaching for 40-some years. And he told me that we needed to get it out of the annuity, that if I didn't get it out of there, I would lose it. I always thought that people had to be pretty stupid to let it take place, but I sure got fooled, and I was well aware that things like that went on. But I think you have to watch out, because they have all kinds of charming things to say and get you off your guard. I still think about it frequently when I get in bed before I go to sleep, and I wake up in the morning, and if I'm lying there getting awake, I start thinking about it again, and I just about have to block it out of my mind, because I can ruin my whole day thinking about what could have been. I'll never be in the place I was before it happened. Things are better than they were, but it'll never be the same. I don't trust people as much as I used to. I know that I won't let anybody in my front door that I don't know, whether they're wanting my money or something else, and I certainly would have a better idea of who to check with and not try to figure it out for myself when it isn't something I'm knowledgeable about. You just have to be very careful, because you can ruin the rest of your life if you aren't.
Before COVID-19 affected our world. But if you think scammers slowed down at all during this pandemic, think again. Iowa Insurance Commissioner Doug Ommen joins us now with some of the facts and what you can do to protect yourself. Commissioner?
Good afternoon to all of you that are joining us today. Again, thank you. As your insurance commissioner, I want to welcome you And again, thank you for tuning in to hear some of this information. Every time I hear Martha Jo tell that story, it reminds me about how important it is to connect with older Iowans, how important it is for us as Iowa fraud fighting agencies pandemic. It's a little more difficult in some ways because so many Iowans are isolated. But we need you to be a fraud fighter. We need you to be an Iowa fraud fighter because you, that is, those of you that are here listening, you can help us identify and stop fraud. You can help us protect yourself, but also protect your friends and your neighbors and family members. So again, thank you for joining us. This is the first of a three-part webinar. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about Medicare fraud as well as financial exploitation and investment fraud. And then we'll have some similar types of offerings over the next couple of weeks. You might ask yourself, why is it that Iowa fraud fighting agencies like the Iowa Insurance Division and the Iowa Attorney General's Office, why is it that we're concerned about fraud? Well, the reality is it's a big business. Investment fraud is a very large business. In fact, estimates are that about $40 billion annually are lost in investment fraud. Financial exploitation is also very large and can cause lots of losses to Americans. It's estimated that there are 35 billion in losses that are lost to financial exploitation on an annual basis. Our research shows that by talking with you, by communicating with you, by reaching out to you, and also actually by encouraging you to speak to each other about these things, we're all going to benefit because through financial literacy and investor education, people are better able to protect themselves because they're less vulnerable to the types of scams you're going to hear about. We can also share with you some of the common schemes that we see here in Iowa, as well as give you plenty of opportunity during the question and answer to also share some of those stories. I would basically start with the idea and the tip that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. The reality is I actually changed that to be, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. And you should always keep in mind that so many scam artists, they know much better about their business than you, and they're going to do everything they can to persuade you that what they're telling you is true, even though it's clearly not. So for today, I wanted to cover a couple of the common scams that we see, give you a little bit of information about that, again, to help you understand how you can protect yourself. The most common investment scam that we're seeing currently are Ponzi schemes. That's that basic idea that the individual is going to continue to solicit new investors or get new investors in because that promoter needs new money in order to pay returns or interest to earlier investors to kind of keep up that facade, keep it looking like it's a successful business when in fact there's no business behind it at all. So it's that idea of robbing from Peter to pay Paul so that you can continue to steal from Sharon. It literally means going through that process of continuing to solicit individuals. And the losses in these Ponzi schemes can be really substantial. You heard the story of Martha Jo. She was scammed in a Ponzi scheme. The Ponzi schemes, oftentimes, they do have that pretense or that appearance of something valuable behind them, but one of the basic things that you can do is you can contact our office. We call it double check before you invest. But if you contact our office, we can tell you whether or not the offering, whether the promotion is properly registered and is in compliance with Iowa law. And by doing that, you can, again, double check to see if the promoter has done everything properly. Unfortunately, Martha Jo lost her investment after we had started an investigation in the insurance division. If she had only contacted us, that would have been allowed us to tell her what was going on, and we could have avoided having her lose money as well. The individual that ran that scam and defrauded Martha Jo went to prison, but nevertheless, if people double check before you invest, you're going to potentially be able to save yourself the heartache that Martha Jo experienced. We thank Martha Jo for telling that story because oftentimes embarrassment keeps people from reporting frauds. We encourage you to set that aside because if you contact us again, even if you have invested money, even if your money is in a place where it would be difficult to recover, you certainly can help us protect others. In just May of this year, here in Iowa, an individual in Fairfield was prosecuted for running a Ponzi scheme. That was about a $2.1 million loss. But it's important to know that our office actually took action 4 years ago in order to stop that fraud. And we believe in that effort, we were able to avoid having others lose money in that Ponzi. So again, please double check before you invest. Contact our office. The next item on the list are private placements, and I'll mention these briefly because private placements are oftentimes sold in such a manner that the promoter doesn't have to go through that registration process. But frankly, they're designed to be sold to qualified investors, individuals that have significant net worth, where there's some ability to determine whether the investor has some experience, again, in order to be qualified. And then there are also limitations in the amount of their net worth that can be invested in any particular offering. I mention that because one thing I can tell you with assurance, just clear as the day, is if a telemarketer calls you and they're offering a private placement, don't invest. That's not private. That's not illegal. You can't do telemarketing in order to sell these kinds of things. So again, make sure that you're not just getting scammed by someone who's trying to take advantage of a provision in the law that's actually designed to make it possible for people to know the investment opportunity well. Last thing on that point of private placements, it's really important that you contact our office again because by reporting that fraud, again, it allows us to take action to stop it and avoid having others lose their money. Oil and gas is every year it shows up on our list of scams. Unfortunately, it's one of those areas that as we continue to see development and technology advancements in oil and gas, it stays in the news. And the scammers know to use any event that's in the news that's current as just another means by which to sell their fraudulent investment. So again, talk to a registered investment advisor, contact our office, double check before you invest. It's really important to do that because you can make investments in oil and gas and they can be very appropriate, but it's really important to make sure you're speaking to someone who's properly registered in order to make those sales. Similarly, precious metals, it's the same sort of idea. In today's markets where you see a lot of market fluctuation, it can be appealing to people to find something that they think is going to provide some stability. In the right market for the right investor, a precious metal or a gold or silver investment can make good sense. But again, if you're interested in doing that, don't do it in response to a telemarketer or something that comes to you in your inbox through email. Make sure you're speaking to someone who's properly registered. Again, call the Iowa Insurance Division and double check before you make that kind of investment. Promissory notes are still something we see, and I list these separately, even though they're oftentimes used as part of a Ponzi scheme. But it's really important to understand that, again, in today's market, where people are holding certificates of deposit or money markets or other low interest bearing instruments, it can be really tempting to hear about something that's going to offer a higher interest rate. I would just tell you that a promissory note is only as good as the promise that is being made. And oftentimes, again, if you're dealing with a con man or a scammer, that promise behind a handshake doesn't mean anything. So again, double check before you invest. Check with our office. Determine for sure that the person that's offering that promissory note investment is properly registered with us and is appropriately licensed to make that type of sale. We're seeing all sorts of other scams, and just mention the vaccine-related investments that we're seeing. Again, scammers use whatever is in the news as a way to try to take your money. So just be aware of double checking. Double check, double check, double check. I want to talk briefly about victim profile. And again, I don't know for sure who's tuned in today to hear this presentation, but what we know from research is that the scammers, they target older Iowans, and they do that for a number of reasons. Probably the main reason is because older Iowans tend to be trusting. Especially here in Iowa, we kind of view ourselves as Iowa nice, and it's really hard at times to slam down the phone or to ignore people when they call, and the scammers know that. They'll call from Florida, they'll call from California, they'll call from all over the country into Iowa because they know we generally are nice people, and that's especially true with older Iowans. So just be aware of that. They also are going to target older Iowans because they know that older Iowans have accumulated some retirement money. They know that our state is well known for a good place to live, and so there are people here that have retired that have accumulated wealth, and the scammers know that, and they're after that money. So again, be very, very aware of that. Scammers also, they do research and they profile with a lot of the data that's now available to determine who may be widowed. Unfortunately, that's the reason that happens is because of the next reason. They're looking for people who are alone. And in the pandemic that we find ourselves in, one of the reasons it's so important that we talk to you in this way is to remind you of that if you are alone, and especially in the pandemic, you're being asked to isolate alone, it's created this perfect storm of opportunity for scammers. So again, even if you're isolating physically and you're staying safe at home, make sure that you're communicating with your neighbors and your family members and keeping in regular conversation with them about how things are going in order to avoid being scammed. The scammer will often tell people, and having been involved in prosecutions over the years, I'll hear this, where the scammers will tell the person, don't ask anyone else about this, don't talk to anyone else about it. And again, that's because they want to convince you to make that decision on your own. Don't have to do that, certainly don't have to do it today. I would just say now, more than ever, it's important for Iowans to be in communication with each other. So again, that's the reason we reached out to you today. So my best tip for you is don't be alone. Find a trusted family member or friend or a registered advisor. And of course, know that you have friends at the Iowa fraud fighting agencies. We have a consumer advocate in the insurance division who can be your friend when it comes to making these decisions. So please double check. I also wanted to talk briefly this afternoon about financial exploitation. You can protect yourself and help protect others around you if you're just familiar with a little bit about some signs of financial exploitation. So I'm going to first talk about some of those warning signs, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about the power of attorney and how a legal tool can be used, again, to help protect yourself, as long as you do it with care. Federal law a number of years ago has authorized financial institutions to evaluate vulnerable transactions, and that is transactions that appear to involve someone who may be targeted for financial exploitation. I support a passage of a similar law here in Iowa and hope that when we come back to full session next year, we can do that. But the point of that is there are things that you can look for in any of these circumstances that could communicate or suggest that the person may be subject to financial exploitation. The first indicator is just isolation from friends and family. So these are those neighborhood watch type ideas, or as we return to being able to gather in groups, that you be aware if people start to appear to withdraw from friends and family, that's a sign potentially of financial exploitation. You can also look for unkempt appearance. So many of our older Iowans, when they're subjected to financial exploitation, it really causes worry. And so you can see that in how they appear. So again, just be mindful, be a friend, And keep in mind that if you see changes in people's appearance, it may be due to financial exploitation. Another indication is unjustified selling. So again, if you see things happening in someone's life where it looks like items that they would expect to keep are being sold off, that's something to watch for. Unpaid bills, and that can result in disconnection of basic utilities. Those are, again, things to look for. So I would ask that you be aware of those. The banks and financial institutions and others are going to be looking for other types of signs, which we've listed here for you. But the basic premise behind it is just be alert if you think that someone maybe is being subject to financial exploitations. For older Iowans, there is a good tool that you can use to help make decisions about moving forward if you want to share some of that responsibility as you age. The power of attorney, conservatorships, guardianships are tools that are available where you can hand off or pass to another person some of the ability to make some of those important financial decisions. Just a couple of points about power of attorney, because what we see is that is one instrument that can be abused, and so you should kind of go into that with great care. First of all, under Iowa law, it has to be a written document. But in that document, what you're doing is you're passing some of the decision-making authority, usually in financial matters, but it can also be for health care, but to another person, that is an agent. And so it's really important when you're making a decision as to who to appoint as your agent for purposes of power of attorney, that you use great care. And what I mean by that is that by handing off that decision-making authority, that gives them authority to act on your behalf. And it's important that when you pick that person, again, that it be someone you truly can trust. They do have the responsibility to act in a manner that's in your best interest. The individual would be required to act in good faith, and they can't act beyond the scope of the power of attorney that you grant to them. But when someone abuses that is financial exploitation. So again, you can protect yourself, again, by finding someone, identifying someone, talking to a few other people about that decision, and making some effort to again, identify someone you truly can trust. We have some resources, again, that you can look to if you need more information. I know that we have some materials available to you on iowafraudfighters.gov, but also the Iowa Office of Aging, the area agencies on aging, as well as the Office of Public Guardian are there to help. So when you get started in this, again, though, please go to iowafraudfighters.gov as a place. So just in conclusion, I know we're going to hear lots of additional information, but we just think it's really important to connect with you. So I'll look forward to having some questions from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. And as the Commissioner noted, if you do have questions you'd like to ask, just put it right there in the comments section as you're watching it, or you can send us an email at info@iowafraudfighters.gov. info@iowafraudfighters.gov. We're compiling the ones that we've already received, and we'll begin to address those questions shortly. Well, now stepping up to the podium is Jeanne Mentel. She's the program manager for the Senior Medicare Patrol Program in the state of Iowa. Jeanne is going to tell us about some of the common Medicare scams that you need to watch out for. Jeanne.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Jeanne, and with the SMP program, the Senior Medicare Patrol Program, and that's with the Senior Health Insurance Information Program, the Iowa SHIP program. And SHIP SMP has actually been with the Iowa Insurance Division for 30 years. And in 2018, the Senior Medicare Patrol Program was added and joined the fight against fraud, errors, and abuse. And Medicare fraud is really big business that we want to talk about here. It's really costing the government $50 billion each year. And to put that into a little bit of perspective, the entire national Homeland Security budget is $40 billion a year, so a lot of money. Today, we have over 350 SHIP SMP volunteer counselors working hard in over 140 organizations, all the way across the state. Our counselors are helping Iowans provide unbiased information to help find the right Medicare choice for them. We know that there's a lot of unique needs out there. Our SHIP S&P counselors are a great resource to help Iowans to prevent, detect, and report Medicare fraud. Just want to take a moment to thank all of our wonderful volunteers for their tireless work that they are doing to help Iowans every day. Today I want to focus on three things: what Medicare has already done to help protect your identity, how you can reduce potential Medicare fraud, and how COVID-19 is impacting Medicare changes and current scams out there today. In 2018, Medicare changed their cards to no longer include your Social Security number. The biggest reason for this change was to protect you and others from Medicare fraudulent use. Social Security numbers could then lead to identity theft and illegal use to Medicare benefits. We want you to protect your new Medicare number and card and keep it confidential. Guard your card like you would a credit card. Keep it safe. Only give your Medicare number out to doctors, to other healthcare providers that you trust working with Medicare on your behalf. Beware of anyone contacting you and asking you for your Medicare number, your personal information, or any financial information. And just remember that Medicare or your Part D plan or your Medicare Advantage plan will never contact you and ask you for your Medicare number over the phone or for your personal financial information over the phone. If you do get a call like this, hang up, call us at the Iowa S&P office at 1-800-351-4664, report the fraudulent call so we can get it to the proper authorities. The key is really never give out your Medicare number except to healthcare providers that you trust. If your number is compromised, give us a call. We work with 1-800-MEDICARE and we're going to help you. It's important that you review your Medicare statements. In addition to protecting your Medicare number, it's really important to be sure that you're only paying for services that you receive. And that means you should always review your Medicare Summary Notice, or your MSN. These are statements that you get from Medicare when a medical provider has filed a claim for services that they're providing to you. Our SHIP S&P counselors are also available to go through your MSNs or your EOB's explanation of benefits with you anytime. Again, give us a call to schedule an appointment. You can always find your local SHIP S&P office on our website at www.ship, and that's with two I's, ship.iowa.gov. Take a look at every notice you receive in the mail. If you see providers listed whom you didn't receive services, we want to check it out with you. Some of the biggest scams that have been reported are when a person says, I didn't receive these services from my provider, but I was charged for them. We want to help you. We want to encourage you to keep good records. Write down your appointments. And give us a call if anything looks suspicious or, as Doug said, looks too good to be true. Give us a call. It could be a simple billing error, but it could also be fraud or abuse. We want to be sure. Our SHIP S&P counselors can also help you understand and review your Medicare summary notices. They'll help you look for fraud or suspected fraud, and they'll help report it to the proper authorities. I want to touch on COVID-19 scams that are happening, and as the commissioner mentioned, whenever there's a big change, whenever there's big headlines, news, something like COVID-19, of course, scammers are going to take advantage of that change and uncertainty to try to con people. Our seniors are being targeted, and so that they want to try and defraud the government as well as exploit our targeted audience. So some of those current scams with COVID-19 have also ushered in to at-risk populations are through social media advertisements, through email, door-to-door salesmen, often trying to peddle personal protective equipment, that PPE, such as masks, sometimes cleaning supplies, or even hand sanitizer. If you order it online, the mask may never show up, what you ordered, and a salesman may use the mask sale to try to sell you something else down the road and say they have a vaccine or a home treatment test or kit for you. There's currently no vaccine and no cure with COVID-19. If anyone approaches you with an opportunity to get a vaccine or a home test kit, please report it to us immediately. We know that there is limited treatment options, but those are conversations to have with your healthcare providers. Don't fall victim to these COVID-19 scams, whether it's testing or treatment. Give us a call. Again, that number is 1-800-351-4664. There are two other Medicare scams that are surrounding Iowa and, surrounding other states and Iowa right now that we really want to make you aware of. Braces scams have been going on for a while now. You see TV ads offering free braces like knee braces. You get calls, often postcards in the mail offering these free braces. They're really not free, we're here to say. These scam artists are billing Medicare, and only equipment that is ordered by your doctor should be billed to Medicare. This is a scam. Don't fall for it. Genetic testing, sometimes called DNA testing or cancer screening, it's often referred to as another growing scam we want to tell you about. Individuals offering to take cheek swabs or provide test kits and perform fake testing or screening will claim that Medicare will pay for this. This is a scam as well. Medicare does not pay for these screenings, genetic testing, these DNA kits, and cancer screening should be performed in a clinical healthcare setting and something that's ordered by your provider. Not in parking lots, not at health fairs, and they don't provide a door-to-door cheek swab service. Don't fall for this scam claiming that they're going to help you determine any of your personal healthcare treatment needs. Don't give them your Medicare card, your personal information. The Iowa SHIP SMP are the folks to give a call anytime you suspect someone is performing fake tests or soliciting or marketing any sort of fake testing to you. There's some Medicare changes. If COVID-19 has caused you at all to lose your health insurance coverage due to recent employment status, and if you're Medicare eligible, please give us a call. Again, we'd like to schedule an appointment with you. There's a special enrollment period right now with Medicare that we'd like to talk to you about. All of us at the Iowa SHIP SMP and the Iowa Insurance Division and Medicare want to be sure that all of your hard-earned dollars are used for legitimate health care costs. $1 out of every $3 are currently spent towards healthcare fraud, errors, and abuse. It's time that everyone take action, that everyone can be a fraud fighter. Call us anytime you have questions or issues, again, related to Medicare and health insurance. Our services are free, objective, and confidential. If you or someone you love has questions about Medicare, again, call us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. And the bottom line is there are resources to help you. And Iowa Insurance Division has those resources to help you and are glad to do it. Now let's take a look at some of your questions that have come in. Again, feel free to reach out in the comments section or to the email address info@fraudfighters.gov. And again, we'll get to as many as we can in the time that we have. So our first question is for Commissioner Ommen. And the person says, I have a neighbor that I worry her own kids may be taking money from her. It is sensitive. How do I help her?
Yes. That's an incredibly sensitive area. Certainly, you don't want to be in a position of making accusations that are going to put you in a position where you become the witness. So we just encourage you to report it to us. At the Iowa Insurance Division, we have a bureau that has individuals who are designed to address those issues. So simply, again, we do ask you to be alert. We ask you to join us in as a fraud fighter, but we encourage you to contact us, as well as there are other agencies that also can be contacted. The local police, depending upon whether it's financial abuse or physical abuse. We're interested and have authority to look at the financial side. If it looks like it's potentially physical abuse, that needs to go to local police authorities. But yeah, we very much understand the sensitivity of it. We're not asking you as an Iowa fraud fighter to go out and conduct further investigation. Please just let us know about it. Thank you.
Our next question is for Jeannie. This person says, it is really confusing to try to reconcile my Medicare statements with the doctor's charges. It seems I receive bills from doctors before Medicare has paid for it. How do I figure out what I should really be paying?
Good question. We always let folks know that if you receive a bill before you've received your Medicare summary notice, might just want to wait to be able to compare those. And if you see a difference between your hospital billing statement and an MSN, that's something that Iowa SHIP and SMP is here to talk through with you. Again, we would also encourage you could contact your primary health care provider, ask them to walk through their billing statement with you. If you're not comfortable doing that, we're here to help. That's what our volunteers, our counselors with Iowa SHIP SMP is happy to help you with.
You can be amazed to look through medical bills, so it's glad that there is some help with that. Next question is for the commissioner. And this person says, is paying for an identity monitoring service the best way to protect yourself from identity theft?
The best tool is actually to go in and do, basically put a credit freeze on your account. You can go to our website, the Iowa Insurance Division, but I think that there's also information with our partner, Fraud Fighter, the Attorney General's office, as a way to go about doing that. Really, the credit freeze is the best method by which there are 3 credit companies that provide essentially background information as when companies apply for that credit card issuance. And so that's the best way to do it. Again, that's what I would recommend. There are other services out there that provide through contracts some ability to provide assistance. And you have to look at all of that information carefully and make a decision as to whether or not you believe that's appropriate for your particular circumstances. But no, the credit freeze with the credit agencies is the best method to protect your identity.
Nothing wrong with those companies who do it, but you definitely want to check it out, right?
Yeah, just definitely check it out. Again, there's such a wide variety now available. It's just something you should check out. But before you make those decisions, again, I would go to look at whether or not a credit freeze. It's a very relatively easy system. You put in a password. So if you do want to go later on and buy a car or make a purchase, you would have to open up your credit reference in order to apply for a loan. But it puts that control in your hands and makes it unavailable to those that are trying to steal your credit.
Next question is for Jeanne. This has to do with COVID, which of course we're all dealing with this in our lives every day. I received an email about Medicare paying for a home-based kit to test COVID. Is that a scam?
Well, it does sound like fraud. I do believe that the FTC has approved one nationwide home kit, but I haven't heard of instances where that's been approached in Iowa yet. So I would say that, yes, that's fraud. We would recommend contacting your primary health care provider anytime you have coronavirus questions, anytime you want a referral for where to go for the closest testing site near you. Definitely contact your health care organization.
All right. Next question just came in for Doug, and it's related to kind of what you talked about just a moment ago about freezing your credit. Is there a cost to that?
Actually, I'll refer you to the material for that. I don't believe that there is a cost. I know a number of years ago, the Iowa legislature enacted some provisions to make that less expensive, and it actually may be free now. I'm getting some head nods from people in the audience. So it is now free. But again, I've done that in my own circumstance. Again, I just think that that's probably the best control that you have. Again, it doesn't mean your identity can't be stolen. It's just that the primary purpose that identity theft occurs is so that people can take your identity, they can take your information, and then they can open up a credit card or a credit account and steal money from the banks, which can really create a lot of personal headache for individuals where that happens. So the best method is credit freeze. And go to the Iowa Attorney General's website or go to ours at the Iowa Insurance Division. And tell me, is there a link through Iowa Fraud Fighters as well? Yes, there is. I know we've been making improvements on the iowafraudfighters.gov website, but that's again a place you can go for that information.
Perfect. So next question is for Jeanne. I heard from a friend that Medicare covered the cost of their hearing aids. How can I get my hearing aids covered?
That's actually a common question, I would say, that many MA plans or Medicare Advantage plans are offering hearing, dental, vision coverage. Again, definitely something to contact the Iowa SHIP SMP office, set up a counseling appointment. Each person has individualized needs, and they're going to be able to sit down and talk through that with you one-on-one.
Excellent. Next question is coming in right now for Doug. And that is related to Martha Joe's situation, the video that we watched in the beginning. And that is, did Martha Joe get her money back?
She did not. I think that's really that's the injustice of that kind of scam. Oftentimes people will view investment scam or financial frauds really somehow as victimless. They're not. So no, the short answer is she did not. The individual did go to prison, so there was justice in that. But in a Ponzi scheme, so much money comes in the door and then goes out the door that people that come in, especially people that come in late, they end up losing their entire investment.
Doug, stay up there for a moment. The next question is also for you, and that is, we've heard a lot about COVID, especially now, and things that are in the news, but what are the most common investment scams you're seeing right now?
Yeah, so that we are seeing some reports, we're hearing reports. A lot of times investment scams don't get reported to us as they're happening. Unfortunately, if the scammer targets an individual who doesn't double check, we don't hear about it. But we are hearing reports of some of those vaccine-related scams where investments are being made available for investors to invest in the technologies, and there. Don't get me wrong. There are investment companies out there that are raising funds through a variety of sources. But anytime you make any sort of investment related to that, you should be going to a registered representative, a registered investment advisor. Again, that's part of double checking with our office to make sure that those opportunities are legitimate. But that's probably the one most recently I've heard that the scams go on all the time as Ponzi schemes are very high. In really difficult financial times, investors get frustrated and they often will sell out of some of their more traditional investment holdings when the market declines or even when they just hear about the market declining. And the time to make a change is not when you're afraid. When you're afraid, that's the time to talk to someone you can trust. And so, again, the scammers, they use these current events as a way to steal money.
Thank you, Doug. Next question is for Jeanne. This has to do with Medicare. How do I protect my Medicare card?
Well, the first thing is to guard it like you would a credit card. You're going to keep it close by. You're not going to make photocopies of your card. If you have, something a sleeve that can protect it and keep it again close on you, that's a great way to protect your card. Obviously, the number one is you're not going to share that Medicare number with anybody that's not your health provider or other healthcare professionals, to keep it safe. And again, if you ever feel that it's been compromised, that your number's been compromised, give us a call so we can work with you and reach out to 1-800-MEDICARE and help get you that new card.
All right, well, thank you, Jeanne, and thank you, Doug. That's going to do it for today's Iowa Fraud Fighters virtual forum. Reminder that we do have 2 more of these to go this month. In fact, our next Iowa Fraud Fighters virtual forum will be right back here next Wednesday, July 22nd at 10 in the morning at a little bit different time, where we will discuss online scams. So you'll want to join us for that. A lot of great information. If you need to get in touch with Fraud Fighters and the Iowa Insurance Division to ask questions or report fraud, you can go to iowafraudfighters.gov. It's a great clearinghouse. You can look at all of the information there. But also, feel free to reach out in an email to that info@iowafraudfighters.gov, or you can call the number 1-877-955-1212. That's 877-955-1212. There'll be somebody there who can help you out. We appreciate you joining us today. Have a good one.